I don't believe in being a naysayer. There's always a way to get something done. You just have to figure it out. One of our community members needed to get to Sloan Kettering for cancer treatment. So I was able to make sure that DPW cleared a path to the highway so a community member, an Englewood resident, didn't miss their cancer treatment. We were instrumental in bringing in hockey in New Jersey to the city of Englewood.
Elizabeth, we're here. Another meeting of the Pitch Meeting podcast. We're here with a very, very special guest. So actually only got to know her in the last few years. Her name is Lisa Wisotsky. She is a current sitting Englewood City Council member of the 2nd Ward. And she has a primary coming up, and it's June 2nd. So, Lisa, welcome to the Jewish Link. Welcome to our converted conference room now podcast studio. And we're really happy to have you.
And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So you have a bit of a race ahead of you. I know that we've covered you. Hopefully, I hope we have done a good job. I think we've done a good job, and I hope we've done. And just saying, let's tell us about the race. Tell us about your candidacy. Tell us about yourself as well.
Okay, so I'm a longtime Englewood resident. I've been living in Englewood for about 31 years now with my husband, Burton. I'm a physician by training and with a master in public health.
That means you're dangerous. It means you're both a doctor and you also know more than being a physician as well.
I've actually retired now. Mm-hmm. I have 5 children that I've raised in Englewood, and now I have grandchildren that are growing up in Englewood. I have 3 grandchildren living in Englewood. I didn't start out on thinking that I would ever be involved in local politics. It's something that came to me. I'm now finishing my first term on the Englewood City Council. I've been on the council for 3.5 years, and now I'm running for re-election.
And I think if I recall correctly, it kind of got started with the ice arena, I think, correct? A little bit.
Yeah. So the way I got involved with Englewood was back in 2007, so it actually starts with the Board of Health. Back in 2007, I then had 4 children, was pregnant with my 5th child. I was working as a rehab doctor. I went to Columbia for a master in public health part-time, and there was some controversies going on with the Englewood Health Department. So some of my friends on the council asked me to join the Englewood Board of Health. And that's where I really got my start. I was on the Englewood Board of Health for 12 years. I'm a past president of the Englewood Board of Health. And that kind of taught me how things run in the city. Until then, I was just busy raising my family and working. And so once I knew how things ran in the city, it enabled me to get involved in other community spaces. So in about 2013, I think it was, there was Hurricane Sandy, and it blew the roof off the Englewood ice skating rink.
Yep.
And a big decision came to the city council. Do we restore the rink or not? And there were voices on each side of the issue. My children were playing ice hockey at the rink, like on travel teams, and we thought it was important for all children in Englewood to have that same experience. Other people felt that the ice skating rink wasn't really open to all residents in the city of Englewood. So I then formed a nonprofit called the Friends of the John T. Wright Arena, and we started getting grant money and putting together programs so that there were opportunities for all Englewood children. One of the most exciting thing that happened to me was at the very beginning, we were able to get a $25,000 grant from the New York Ranger Assist program. And I was called onto the ice with the then Englewood city manager. We accepted a check, one of those big checks, in Madison Square Garden. And I got to say to my kids, look how cool your mom is. Whoever thought your mom would be, called on to the ice at Madison Square Garden. So
Please tell me that has not been the last time you've been called cool. You've been able to call yourself cool, I hope. So it has? Okay.
It's a great memory.
That is
sounds
cool.
like.
Yeah. And the most important thing that we did, though, I think, looking back at the experience, was we made the Englewood Ice, we helped change Englewood Ice Skating Rink into a community space so that now everybody in Englewood uses it. We had started the tradition of annual Englewood Winter Party that continues to this day. And we were instrumental in bringing in hockey in New Jersey to the city of Englewood, which means that any child in the city of Englewood who wants to learn how to play ice hockey gets equipment, lessons, and skating time for free.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I always felt that ice hockey, that hockey arena was always a little different. There aren't that many outdoor ice rinks, I think, correct? Like it's a pretty rare thing.
Yeah, that's what makes it special. Mm-hmm. But now on the city council, we are looking at ways to partially enclose it so it could be more of a year-round, or to enclose it more so we can use it as a year-round ice skating rink.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, is that? Are you running on that?
I'm not running on it, but it's one of the initiatives that the city is working on.
Great. Okay, cool. Yeah. Having been to that arena, to be able to use it year round, I think would be great for the city. No question.
So. We're applying for grants for that and for our outdoor pool to make it a year-round pool.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Nice.
That's great. Yeah. I think I saw you on social media walking down Jones Road recently. What was the issue with Jones Road? Okay.
Right. So one thing that's been really important to me is listening to residents, and to be responsive and to follow through. And that's how we make a lot of the improvements in the city, because we get a lot of the ideas from the residents. They tell us what needs to be done, and then we have to follow through. And that is what happened exactly on Jones Road. After that Jones Road Bridge project was finally completed,
you
remember that was
took a long time,
year and a half.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a town, right? That was the county. Correct?
That was a state.
Okay.
That was a state, and that was a safety issue. Mm-hmm. But and I think now they're working in Teaneck, and then they're going to come back to Englewood again. But after the Jones Road Bridge was completed, there's a bus stop that's opened again on Route 4 West, and there was no safe way for residents to get from Van Nostrand to Walton to access that path, because with cars. I know it's going to sound a little complicated, I'll try, but it was cars getting off Route 4. There was no way for the city to put a crosswalk safely for people to access the sidewalk on the other side of Jones Road. There wasn't enough space for cars to decelerate. And so the city engineer determined that he could not put in a crosswalk. So residents were complaining, we don't have a safe way to walk. And so I went out there one day with the deputy city manager and some other folk, and we took a look at the Jones Road, and it was wide enough. And what the city engineer did was he made a pedestrian walkway just by putting some barrier
rods, I think.
Yeah, barrier rods, making a safe pedestrian walkway. And so it was done pretty quickly. I thought it was innovative, and it's effective.
So people now I actually saw that on social media you actually walked that walk, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to show people that now it's safe to walk from Walton to Van Nostrand and vice versa to access the Route 4 bus stop.
Mm-hmm. What have you learned so far about Englewood and the town and its population? And what have you? I'm sure you've probably seen a whole different side of the community and the town that you may not have seen before.
I guess I've been involved in the city in so many different levels for so long that even though I'm a councilwoman now, it's not really different for me, because in addition, I talked about being on the Board of Health. I talked about the nonprofit I founded. I was also a president of the Rotary Club of Englewood. And I was on the board of Flat Rock Brook. I've been on the board of Ava Torah. Mm-hmm. So I've been involved in many different institutions in Englewood, and I have friends from all over the city. And I love the diversity of Englewood, and everybody loves Englewood, no matter, where you live in Englewood, what your interest is. I think everyone is vocal about how they feel about the city, and they're not afraid to be vocal about it, which is good, because that's how we learn how to make things better.
Yeah.
And people really love the city. There's a lot of intergenerational families in the city, all throughout the city. And now, like I said, myself, I have 4 generations now in Englewood because my father just moved into the Bristol Manor, which is an assisted living facility. So as of last week, I have 4 generations living in Englewood.
Wow, nearly 4.
One of the things, as we've been working on an article for about you for the paper, is all of your colleagues have talked about how much more it seems that things are getting done in Englewood. Like, can you talk a little bit about all of the ordinances that have been passed? I think you had some sort of record number, like 54 passed in the last year. Do you want to talk about some of those?
Sure. So when I came onto the council, there were times when there wasn't as much focus on what needed to be done and getting it done. And I'll give you some examples, but I'm and I don't know if this is because of my training as a physician or just how I am, but I'm very goal oriented. My philosophy is if something needs to be done, then you have to figure out how to get it done. What steps do we need to take to get it done? I don't believe in being a naysayer. There's always a way to get something done. You just have to figure it out. And so when I was president of the council, so last year, there were a lot of things that we had talked about, but we hadn't moved forward. So some examples are things like driving on Palisade Avenue. For years, people complained that people were making left turns as they were driving on Palisade Avenue, crossing the double yellow lines, going into parking spaces, and how unsafe that was. But nothing ever happened with it. We just talked about it. So that was one of the ordinances we passed. A lot of quality of life ordinances. Things that are common sense, like no commercial vehicle parking overnight in residential areas. Things like no cannabis smoking in public spaces. Things like no public urination. We have to pass that too. So, there's just so many ordinances, so many things that we e-bikes and e-scooters. It's something that we had talked about. I found that one day I was sitting on my home office, and I said, let me pull up this agenda from last year. Let me see what we did at this meeting. And I'm looking at it, and we had a long meeting. It lasted hours, but we actually didn't pass any ordinances. And for discussion was regulations for e-bikes and e-scooters. So I inquired at the city. I said, I don't remember we ever passed this ordinance. They said, no, we just discussed it. So we spoke to the police department, and this is still a important need. And we actually, before the state came out with their recent e-bike and e-scooter laws, we passed it last year. So it was just a matter of focus and saying, what do we need to accomplish, and let's get these things done.
So more of an organizational, or like kind of crossing T's, dotting I's, organizationally having the meetings be a little more focused and like productive.
Productive, goal-oriented. Right. There used to be, I think you viewed some of our past meetings. There were a lot of disruptions during the meetings. Yep. So we stopped that. There's Robert's rules when you conduct meetings, and we went back to the basics. We made sure in the beginning of the year that I became council president, we reviewed all the rules. We passed it at our first meeting, and then we followed through, and our meetings became focused, no disruptions, and goal-oriented.
But still long.
No, they're
really?
not. No, they're not long anymore.
Okay, wow.
No,
what's a council meeting?
needs to get some lessons then in this.
Well, last year we were moving through a lot of important issues. In addition to the ordinances, we were looking at some difficult topics. We were looking at a lot of the ordinances we passed had to do with stormwater management, things like that. So we were focusing last year on stormwater management, starting a process toward a community center. Cannabis, what to do with cannabis. So that took some time. But yeah, we've streamlined our meetings, and they're now anywhere between 1 or 2 hours.
That's great. Wow.
Yeah.
They're not marathons. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right. So I think this stormwater issue is something that people outside Englewood definitely noticed because of the flood that closed the Englewood ShopRite. couple of years ago. That was in 2023, maybe. Something like that. Do you remember it? Wait, can't remember which storm it was.
There were a couple of storms. One before I got on the council, I think was the Hurricane Ida.
Okay.
And then in 2024, in August, there was a storm that uniquely affected Englewood. The storm clouds were over Englewood.
Right.
Not over Teaneck.
It was shocking. It was
not over
surprising,
Teaneck, and not even over all of Englewood. And we got something like over 6 inches of rain in a very short period. And it was devastating.
Right.
It was devastating. So we had hundreds of rescues by fire departments, people out of their vehicles. So now stormwater management, we're very proactive with stormwater management. We've applied for grants. We've gotten grants. We're working regionally with partners, including Teaneck and Tenafly and Leonia and Englewood Cliffs, working together to clear the waterways. All our stormwater basins are all inspected on a regular basis. We actually have a whole team dedicated now just for stormwater management, and repairs are made, on a very, I said, proactive basis.
You also, I think, are working on other projects with other neighboring towns, such as shared fire services, I heard, and some other things like that.
Yes, so that's really important. So we need to, as you know, New Jersey is a home rule state. Everybody has their own police department. Yep. Not everyone has their, we have a paid fire department. Some towns have a volunteer fire department. But there's just so many levels of organization, and that's what makes local government so expensive. And then we have the layer of county and then the layer of state.
Yep.
So for the paid fire departments, it's been very difficult. And the three major players in our area are Teaneck, Hackensack, and Englewood. And so we're looking now for efficiencies and any way that we can provide a better product to the residents. And it's already really good, but a better, we want to improve safety, but in the most efficient way. And so Teaneck has approached us about it last year when I was council president. We had our first conversation, and we've continued the conversations. And now we're applying for what's called a LEAP grant to get a grant to explore the best way, what it would look like for Teaneck, Englewood, and Hackensack to have some sort of shared fire service. Mm-hmm. So there's no changes at this time, but we're going to explore it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And that's something we have to do as we move forward. We have to find ways to share services, and we have to find ways to bring in revenue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we were talking about you were looking into other ways to raise revenue as well. I think parking, or what were you thinking of?
So EV chargers was one thing we started looking at last year. I think we're in the process. We put out one RFP, which is asking for proposals, but we're going to put out another RFP for a company to come in to install EV chargers for us, and that's one way that towns can raise revenue. We also looked at cannabis, recreational cannabis. We wanted to start small. That's an issue that we talked about last year. It's something that's been talked about for a while. Teaneck passed an ordinance several years ago allowing recreational cannabis. So we passed an ordinance last year allowing recreational cannabis on the highway. So this way we're not bringing traffic into the city. And that the council thought that would be a gentle way to start, and we'd see how it went. So this way people could stop if they wanted recreational cannabis once a retail establishment's open on the highway. They won't come into the city. And it makes sense in that cannabis is already in the towns. Anybody who wants to have cannabis delivered in any town, any town in the state of New Jersey could have cannabis delivered. So it wasn't like we were introducing cannabis into the city of Englewood. Right. It's already here. And now if people wanted recreational cannabis, they already could get it in Teaneck. They could already get it in Englewood Cliffs. So this is what I'm sorry, I didn't mean Englewood Cliffs. I meant
Fort Lee.
I meant Fort Lee. Mm-hmm. So this is one way that we can maybe raise some revenue on something that's already here and have it regulated, as opposed to cannabis that's being sold in Englewood that's not regulated.
Got it.
Is there a difference between a dispensary and a recreational cannabis, or dispensary seems medical to me? I'm just asking.
My understanding is that a dispensary could refer to both cannabis use as medicine or recreational.
Okay.
So you're hoping that someone opens on Route 4, you're saying, correct?
Yes, that's what we're hoping for.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. Well, that makes sense. I want to praise Englewood. Englewood, for those of us who sit in Teaneck, your downtown looks gorgeous. Relative to, at least in terms of the towns in North Jersey, we think. And what are you doing? Anything to kind of keep that? I know that there's some really nice. I know the night out is something that people love.
Sure. So talking about some of the ordinances for quality of life that we passed last year, like one of them is something as simple as making shop owners responsible for garbage that's left on the downtown in front of their stores. And now they're responsible for it. So that was one of the other things we did last year. And so keeping our downtown beautiful is really important to us.
And you have parking.
We do have parking.
Not enough.
I think
there should be more.
Yeah.
I'll talk about the parking in a moment, but yes, we started the night out. Mm-hmm. It started. I'm trying to think if it started as our 125th. We did night out as our 125th anniversary celebration. We had it last year. We had it the year before. We are having it this year in July. It brings people from not only from all over Englewood, from all over the region together. Music, dining, there's kosher dining, all different sorts of foods. It's really a wonderful experience. So that's going to happen again. Our the restaurants seem to be thriving for the most part. Now I see that there are medical groups that are opening too in the downtown.
Yeah.
We have the Bergen Pack, which brings in a lot of people, which really makes Englewood really special.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Yeah.
I don't see too many empty storefronts. That's what I will say. I don't see. You just don't see that many. It has a nice feeling always. I mean, it's full, so no question. And we like to refer to the top part of as like, I think you have a little bit of a kosher row also as well. Started.
Yeah, when I first moved to Englewood over 30 years ago, I think there was never more than one kosher restaurant at a time, and they didn't seem to stay in business. There was, I think, when I first moved in, a kosher pizza store that went out of business. Later, there was a kosher fish store that went out of business. But now the stores are there, and they're thriving.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Nice.
And Menagerie's have been there for about 30 years, I think. Correct.
Right. But I'm talking about the restaurants. But Menagerie does well too.
Yeah.
Do very well.
Yeah. But now you have maybe 4 opened in the last year or two. The Wandering Q, the one
Modern.
Next to Hummus Elite, the new one.
Zula pizza store.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's great. No, it's great. Actually, I
Modern Bread and Bagel.
Modern Bread and Bagel.
Very nice.
I've walked with the mayor, Michael Wilds. We did it. It looks like we'll walk with you in the next few restaurant openings.
Right.
Looking forward to it. Has there been like a highlight, or as a council member, has there been a kind of a highlight experience, like highlight in council chambers, council achievement, your achievement? That you just really kind of like says, hey, I'm happy to this is really special. Like I feel good about being a council member. So.
I do feel really good about being a council member, and that's why I'm running again, because I see the difference that I make in the city. I mean, when I was doing a lot of community work, working with some of the nonprofits and community organizations, I saw what a difference I could make, and that's why I was inspired to run. And running, I get a lot of satisfaction when I walk around and I see the changes that we were able to implement, and knowing that I had a role in them. And I'll just give you a couple of examples of things that I feel really good about. So one of them is, for example, we had a blizzard, if you remember, this winter. Mm-hmm. And I got a call from a resident that one of our community members needed to get to Sloan Kettering for cancer treatment. So I was able to make sure that DPW cleared a path to the highway so a community member, an Englewood resident, didn't miss their cancer treatment. And that was important.
I like that story. That's really nice. Well, that's
there was another person who told me that they had a spouse in a wheelchair and they couldn't cross Jones Road. So when I was really pushing to enact these crosswalks, which you now see all over Broad Avenue and Jones Road, and you see it throughout the city. It's not just my ward. You see it on Lydecker, you see it in the 3rd Ward and 4th Ward. We've put crosswalks in many places. But this person, they couldn't get across Jones Road, and that was the first crosswalk we put in. We also had a disabled child on that street, so it made sense. And that's something they were asking for a long time, and we got it done. And that was really good. What some people say, there are two things that when I walk door to door, there are two things that I get a lot of feedback on. So one is the left turn signal on Grand and Van Nostrand. So for decades,
by the way, that is a weird signal. Yes,
but
it's weird.
The left turn signal on Grand and Van Nostrand.
If you're coming down Van Nostrand and you want to get onto Route 4, it used to be very unsafe. So when my kids were learning to drive, I would never let them drive down Van Nostrand to get onto Route 4. So, and this is going on for decades.
It's like a left, and then you immediately have to
but you have cars coming from all different directions.
Correct.
It's weird. It's weird.
So when I got on the council, I said this has to stop, and it was a state-controlled traffic signal. We had to fight with the state. It took 2.5 years. Over Shavuos of 2025, June of 2025, that left turn signal went up.
Wow.
A game changer in the community.
Yeah. Actually noticed that. That's you? Okay, great.
Well, it's I push for it really hard, and with the members of city government, we pushed really hard, and we worked with our state legislators. We even brought it to Josh to our congressman's attention. And it even went, we did whatever we can to get that done. So that was one thing. And the other thing is that I worked really hard on is throughout the city, and then I could talk specifically on the 2nd Ward, but throughout, I chaired, when I got on the council, I've always been a big supporter of sports and recreation. I was a competitive swimmer growing up, and all our kids had to do a sport. When they got to a certain age, my husband said, and they're not, maybe by the time they were 7, my husband said, "What sport are you doing? If you don't pick a sport, I'm picking it for you." And all my kids did a sport. So parks, playgrounds, sports, recreation, very important to me. So when I came on the council, I asked the then council president, Judith Marin, if I could chair a park strategic vision plan. We never had such a thing in the city, so that we could be, not every park could address every need of the city. So how can the parks work together to address the needs of the entire city of Englewood? And she said yes, and she created an ad hoc committee, which I chaired for the next 2 years. We worked with a group in Rutgers, and I had a wonderful committee. And working with this professional group, Rutgers and Rutgers graduate students, we came up with a plan. And it's a 5 to 10 year park plan for the city. We've been enacting that plan. So if you drive in Englewood now, you will see new playgrounds, well-maintained fields. You see this throughout the city. Specifically to the 2nd Ward, you see this in the 2nd Ward parks. Madison Park had not been redone in decades. Now it has an expanded playground. If you walk there on a Saturday, you go there on a Sunday, you've got 100 kids. You've got the kids, you've got the families all hanging out together over the weekend. And it's just beautiful to see. And that's something that when people see me walking around town or in synagogue, they say, "That park is now amazing. Thank you so much."
Awesome.
And it's not just that park. We fixed the drainage in Garrity Park on Broad Avenue. We put in new pickleball courts on Rockwood. And we are now planning to put an upgraded all-ability playground in Trumbull Park, which is also on Broad Avenue. And we're trying to work on Crystal Lake, which is another park. The problem with Crystal Lake is the flooding, because all the water comes from Flat Rock Brook down to Crystal Lake. And it turns out that half that properties, or half that lake, almost half the lake, or maybe about half the lake is being controlled now by the New Jersey Turnpike off 8095. So first we have to address the stormwater issues, and then we can address some of the enhancement issues. But we've already done some enhancement, like expanding the dog park there, putting new gating.
But there's not much room there beyond the lake. I'm saying you don't have that much grounds besides the lake.
Right, and as I said, New Jersey Turnpike, they control a good portion of it.
Yeah.
And they've been out there because there's a dam there and a lake. They've been out there cutting trees close to 8095 because of dam integrity. And we can't, they can't replant yet. We can't replant yet until they give the okay to do so. So that's a challenge, but it's something that we're going to continue to beautify that park as well.
I know that Crystal Lake has a lot of birds. Do you still have the deer issues that you used to have in the last 10 plus years?
So we have geese issues.
Geese. Oh.
Which I think everybody pretty much has.
The Canada geese, right?
Yeah. Last year, the city employed geese chasers.
Really?
But I'm not sure.
So they don't lay their eggs in certain places, or
I think they chase them, but
they just chase them.
But the county was using this company, and so we used the group that the county. It's something the city manager brought in to the city, but I'm not sure that we saw enough of a difference that in a tight budget year that we're continuing with the geese chasers. The deer is a problem. It's a problem in Englewood. It's a problem in Teaneck.
Yeah.
It's a problem all over Bergen County.
They're eating all the flowers.
They are. They are. And there's no way to control. The way that they're controlled now is with car accidents, essentially.
Ay.
Because there's really no.
And you have to hope that they aren't too serious. So for the drivers, sure.
Yeah, there's been no deer management policy enacted in Bergen County. It's something
it has to be a broader issue, you think?
Yeah, it's something that I took on. I'll take on the hard issues. I don't mind taking them on because issues remain issues, whether you take them on or not. So you might as well take them on.
Right.
So I took on that issue when I was on the Board of Health, and I convened two regional symposiums, one for elected officials, even though I was not an elected official at the time, and one for community members with New Jersey State Game and Wildlife. They did presentations, had people in from many of the towns, elected leaders, health department, county people. The problem is that unless you have a regional approach, coming from the county, it's really hard for one town to control the deer because they just come over.
Right.
And
they don't have.
They don't care about town lines.
They don't care about
right.
City limits.
They don't know boundaries. Yeah. Somebody had said, well, if Englewood controls their deer, they're going to all come to us, but to us in a specific area. But they don't know boundaries.
Right.
They'll come from Leonian to Englewood, from Englewood Cliffson to Englewood, from Englewood to Bergenfield,
yeah.
and one town did enact a deer management program. I believe it was Saddle River. And I spoke to their mayor, and they're having a really hard time with it. They're continuing their deer management program, but until there's a regional approach, it's going to be really hard to control the deer.
Wow.
And Englewood is really a dense city, as all our towns are.
Yeah.
So it's not so easy to enact.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
And what that management plan looks like is, I don't know. That's really up to the state and the county officials to determine what the best way to enact a management plan is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have our vote, Lisa. The problem with the primary is getting people to come out. I think correct is what's the biggest challenge in terms of just getting the community, the residents to vote. Correct?
Right. A primary is all about voter turnout. That's all it is. It's really important that people go out and vote. I tell people not only should you go out and vote. Make sure your parents, if they live in town, go out and vote. Make sure your children vote. Make sure your friends, make sure your neighbors vote. Make a plan to vote. If you're not going to be around on election day, it's Tuesday, June 2nd. Polls are open at your regular polling stations, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Then go to early voting, which is May 26th to May 31st in either Teaneck or Fort Lee, or get a vote by mail ballot. But everybody should vote. Okay. It's really important.
Yeah, Elizabeth, we're gonna work on that message also in the next few weeks as well. So.
And we know that it's tougher in these years when there aren't like there's not a big presidential primary, there's not a big even congressional primary. So we really need Englewood to get this message at this point.
Yeah, talk to us about this Teens for Peace program.
Thank you for asking me. That's a program I'm really proud of. When I was president of the Rotary Club of Englewood, it's when COVID had just started. At that time, I'm just going to put you into the time frame. It was right after the Jersey City shooting. It was right after the death, the George Floyd death. Mm-hmm. And tensions were running high. I thought it was really important to bring communities together. And I wanted to do this through the children in the community. So working with Mitch Schoenfeld, who's a Rotarian, and he was because he's now retiring from being executive director of the Bergen Family Center, and also working with Charlotte Bennett Schoen, who is a big peace building promoter, we put together this program, and it's now in its 6th year. And what this program does is it brings together middle school students from all 5 of Englewood's middle schools. So it's unbelievable to think about the fact that Englewood has 5 middle schools. There's Mariah, there's Dwight Englewood and Elizabeth Morrow, 2 private schools. Mm-hmm. There's the charter school, and there's the Janice Dismas Middle School. So we take 5 teenagers from each school. They're chosen by their schools because of their maturity, their leadership abilities. And we have a program where they talk about diversity, community, what's important to them. And facilitated through the Bergen Family Center. Imagine during COVID, they couldn't even meet in person. Oh. So it started, the first 2 years that they met on Zoom virtually, and they came together for a service project at the end of the program. And it culminates with the planting of a peace pole that says, "May peace prevail on earth." We've planted 4 peace poles, 1 in each ward of the city. Last year, the 5th peace pole was planted in downtown Englewood. And next week, we're planting the 6th peace pole by the Liberty School, which is another central area in Englewood. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Maybe send us a picture of that peace pole. So, because I don't know if we've ever covered it.
You covered it the first year because the first year, I believe the Mariah student wrote an article about it.
Oh, great!
And you covered it in the Jewish Link.
Okay. Okay. Yes, I recall that. Yes, now I recall.
Okay.
Lisa, we wish you a lot of hatzlacha, a lot of luck.
You.
Okay, on this campaign. First of all, you look like you're not exhausted yet, so you don't have the look of a tired, exhausted politician, which is only to your credit and to your favor. And keep it up, and especially as you mentioned before, you'll be thinking about becoming an empty nester soon. So, which means you'll have even more time to devote to the city of Englewood.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being with us on the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast. If you would like to participate or be in touch with us in any way, please email us at editor@jewishlink.news. And follow us and find our podcast wherever you find podcasts.